Well, hello and welcome to Wine Reform. Unfortunately, Alessandra couldn't be with us today, so I'm filling in for her. I'm going to be sharing with you a few of my favorite cocktails to mix for the Addamses every time we get together for the mazurka. Now, this first cocktail we will be mixing is called the Vampire's Kiss. A few of us frump women experienced that in our youth, but I'm making this so that everyone can have such a thing. You will need red wine, Angostura bitters, Chambord, and one special ingredient we're going to save for the end. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to get a cocktail shaker, and you're going to fill the bottom with ice. Cold and dead just like mother's heart. That's just enough. The next thing you're going to do is take your jigger and measure out 2 ounces of red wine. Your next ingredient is going to be your Chambord. Now for this one, you're only going to need 1 ounce. Now the next ingredient you're going to put in your shaker is 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, as we do love a bit of bitterness. 1, 2, 3. There. And next we're going to shake. There. Now I mentioned that we have one special ingredient for this cocktail. Now normally for the Addamses I would use donor blood, but Alessandra didn't think that would be quite so appealing. So this time we're using raspberry syrup. Just take a little syringe. There, that'll do. And now you're going to line your glass. And once you have done so, there, terrible. You will pour your mixture into your glass. There, the Vampire's Kiss. If you're into something that's perhaps a bit more sweet, then I'd say this is the cocktail for you. Now the second cocktail we are making tonight is a favorite in the Addams family. I do believe my great-aunt Calpurnia was rather fond of this one. We call this one Witch's Brew. You will need Brut champagne or sparkling wine, which I have here, Midori melon liqueur, lemon juice, and the tears of children. Fortunately, if you don't have those, simple syrup will suffice. And then one final ingredient, which will pop in at the end, and we'll let you know what it is. So the first step you're going to do is you're going to take, once again, your cocktail shaker, drop a bit of that cold ice into the bottom. The first thing you're going to do is you are going to measure out 1.5 ounces of Midori. Oh, it has such an awful green color. I'm quite fond of it. The next thing you're going to do is measure out 1/2 ounce of your children's tears or simple syrup to substitute. Your next ingredient will be just the slightest bit, a 1/4 ounce of lemon juice. Now the next step, you're going to close your cocktail shaker and give it a good jostle. There, done. Next you will need your glass, 1 cocktail glass, and you're going to pour your mixture into your glass. Oh, what an awful color. Quite green, if I do say so. Now what you're going to do is you're going to add your special ingredient, Eye of Newt. He was such a nice boy. If you don't have access to any Eye of Newt, then rambutan will do just fine. You can get it at any Asian market or online, and you can have it canned. And the last thing you're going to do is you're going to top it off with your sparkling wine. Any kind will do, but I prefer Brut. A good bit of bitterness can offset the melon saccharin Midori. And the last thing you do is you top it off with your sparkling wine. I do appreciate drinking witch's brew in celebration of my dear great-aunt Calpurnia. Ah yes, if you're fond of sweet and sour, then I dare say you would appreciate this one. It's got notes of lemon, just a touch, but the melon overall comes through and it is rather sweet. The third cocktail we will be concocting tonight is for those who are a bit more fond of the other side. I call this cocktail Ectoplasm. It is a modified white port cocktail, so if anyone is fond of any classics, I dare say you've heard of this one. Of course, there's a twist. You will need white port. White port, not tawny port, not ruby port. The effect just won't be the same. You need white port. Tonic water. I prefer Fever Tree. It so reminds me of typhoid fever. And I have here Mom and Dad, but I suppose if you don't necessarily have that to your disposal, any sort of food-safe luster dust will do. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your cocktail shaker and set it down in front of you. Fill the bottom with a few pieces of ice. And the next thing you're going to do is measure out 3 ounces of white port. And next I'm going to take the slightest smidgen of dear old Mom and Dad and add it to my cocktail shaker. And I'm just going to use the spoon as it makes things so much simpler. And drop it in. You're going to give it a good stir. Now if you don't have a hawthorn strainer, simply take the top of your cocktail shaker, pop that lid on, and pour it into a glass. Reminds me of a seance. The next thing you're going to do is top it off. Now it says 3 ounces, so just go ahead and take that sugar. And there you have it. Ectoplasm. So if any of you are fond of the classic gin and tonic, well, this is just a tad bit sweeter. Now, I dare say if you pop this under a black light, because of the quinine in your tonic water, it should glow. Now the fourth and final cocktail we will be making tonight is a classic. If you are fond of whiskey sours, I dare say you will be fond of this one as well. I must admit, I have found the recipe on Wine Folly, and I thought it was perfect, so I had to share. You will need bourbon, red wine, Angostura bitters, drool of dog, maple syrup will suffice if you don't seem to have that, and finally lemon juice. Now, the first thing you're going to do is once again fill your cocktail shaker with ice. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to pour in 1 ounce of bourbon. Your next ingredient is going to be equal that in red wine. Next you're going to add 12 dashes of Angostura bitters. I do so love bitterness. It reminds me of home. There. Now next you're going to add half an ounce of your drool of dog. However, maple syrup will suffice. And finally, half an ounce of lemon juice. Now the next thing you're going to do is once again, pop the lid on your cocktail shaker and give it a thorough scrambling. The next thing you're going to do, take your glass, and pour it in. This cocktail is perfect for anyone who likes just a bit of bitter and a lot of sour. The lemon juice complements it quite nicely. If you want a deeper color, then you can go ahead and find a wine with a higher tannin. And there you have it, darlings. 4 Hallowine cocktails for your spooky soiree. You have the Vampire's Kiss, the Witch's Brew, Ectoplasm, and the Blood Letter Trinidad. Thank you, or unthank you, for joining us today on Wine Reform, and Alessandra will see you again next week. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is.